Welcome to Careers and Cartwheels, the podcast where two mums with two very different lifestyles talk about the
chaos and joy
and raw truths of motherhood. Whether you're juggling meetings or mastering messy play and learning plans, there's a place for you in our mum community. Hello. So we are back after a little bit of a break. Unintended, of course, wasn't it, Pam?
Life just gets busy, doesn't it?
It got very busy. So welcome and thank you so much for tuning in to today's conversation. This is one that we have been planning for months, I'd say.
Yeah. Yep.
And yeah, I think it's one that affects all of us, no matter how old our children are, and that is technology use in our homes. So we thought we would tackle it from the perspective of, I guess, how we approach it within our families and our homes. I have done a ridiculous amount of research into this over the last 10 years of being a mum, arguably a little bit too much potentially. But so Pam, you recommended that we talk about this. Actually, before we dive into it, should we do like a little let's debrief on life lately?
Yeah, sure. Well, someone had a birthday recently.
Someone did.
Last year in their 30s. Welcome. I'm already over the hill, so, you're not quite there yet. No, we actually surprised you, didn't we? We came and met you and your family for a lovely lunch, and we were actually quite impressed with how well behaved our kids were at quite a fancy restaurant.
Weren't they? They were all so good.
They were really well behaved, very well mannered. And I liked where we ended up having lunch because the kids could sort of go for a bit of a wander and you kind of knew that they weren't going to go too far. And there was a playground not too far away. But then we made I'm going to say ridiculous decision.
That was not the wisest choice, definitely.
7 kids putt-putting, which was both stressful but joyful at the same time. So I think, for us watching the two younger 3-year-olds, they would walk straight up, put the ball down, the ball would go in, and they were just so excited, like, yes,
I win.
No matter how much you encourage them to stand back, they still pick up their ball. But we did have an interesting event happen while we were doing putt-putt. My youngest stepson decided to take a bit of a swim in the pond that was there, and really, we're sitting there entertaining the younger two, and next minute we hear this massive splash, and I look over, and of course it's my stepson. Meds had started wearing off, and they were just being silly, and his ball went into the pond, and next minute he went in with it head to toe, did no change of clothes with me or anything. So luckily I had a spare towel in the car from the gym. But yes, that was quite.
I love that. We have been talking about that all week. And
have you?
We have. Like, honestly, it was like it happened in slow motion because I just happened to turn around as he was reaching over, and so I actually saw him fall. But it was one of those moments where you're like so shocked that you're like frozen and you can't speak or make a sound. And so I'm just watching this happen in slow motion. He's just gone into the water, and his little face was just like horror, sheer horror, and he just scrambled up so quickly. It was not a deep pond, so
it was wet.
Yeah,
and the weather was kind of like on and off showering too, so it wasn't like super hot. But he just kept going. Hey, like it didn't faze him at all, and he was in the playground playing. I was just like, man, you are a wild child.
A lot, yeah.
I read enough. I was like, all right, something's happened. I'm going to see if you can guess. And the child that actually fell in the water was the last child he had picked on the list. So yeah, that was interesting.
Which one
But
was
that
the
was great.
first?
Eamon. Ned's wearing off, so he's like, Eamon's had a meltdown. I'm like, no, no. He's like, Caleb. I'm like, no, no, no. It's the other one. He's like, what has he done? I'm like, well, because I was there. So you had yourself and your husband and your three boys, and I
Mm,
was there solo with our 4 kids.
that's right.
Um, so it was a mission. My daughter is quite great with Caleb, so she'll
Mm.
take him for walks and things like that. So it's almost like we've got 2 adults there. But that was fun. But it was lovely to get together and celebrate your birthday, and you were completely in a way you had no idea. Like, why is Pam texting my husband?
I like there were 2 days that I was in the car. One was on my actual birthday on the Friday, and the other time was on our way to wherever we were going. Like, I had no idea where we were going on the Sunday. Was it Sunday? Saturday. And I saw your name pop up on the screen in the car because his car was paired to his phone was paired to the car, and so messages always pop through. And I saw that, and I remember on Friday I was like, "Why is Pear messaging you?" And he's just he's like, ah, like just didn't know what to say. I'm like, why is my best friend messaging you? Do you even have her number?
I'm a bit disappointed in Michael. Like, he could have not saved my name in his phone. Like, I didn't save his number in my phone. I haven't yet, but I will. But I was like, especially if you're going in the car with her in the next few days, and I just happen to message at a time that's convenient for me, but not necessarily convenient for him, and my name pops up, it's kind of like dead giveaway. Something's going on, you know? Um,
I honestly I'm so trusting when it comes to that man. He gave me some excuse about, oh, Pam was just messaging me the other day, something about your birthday. I was like, oh, all right, no worries. So I was just so like, yeah, whatever you say.
did you just give him my number?
No, no, I didn't. So I assume he must have gotten it from my phone.
Oh, sneaky husbands, right?
Yeah, he's always been a little bit like that.
But what happened? And then the Sunday, I had my husband's birthday. So your
Mm.
birthday is 2 days before my husband's. So Sunday was another big day of in the kitchen. The boys were all happy watching the World Cup. But Caleb had a birthday party to go to. So it was another 2 hours of chasing a toddler around. And he is such a busy child. Like, his mind just changes and his focus just changes so quickly. So he could be doing this and the next minute he's off. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, mommy would just like to have 5 minutes to sit down. So I was in the obstacle course with him doing some of the activities. And then we sat down to have lunch, and he spilled his drink all over himself and all over me. And I'm just like, Andrew, can you just have a beer ready for when I get home? I didn't. Do you know when I got back from your birthday? It was a 50. I know it was a really long drive for you guys, but it was a 50-minute drive for me, and he had a beer on the bench, cracked for me, ready to go. The moment
Oh, good man.
I was like, oh, thank you, I really needed this because I said to Michael before we left, I'm like, oh, if we're going to go sit by the playground, maybe I can just have a wine and just de-stress. But
Yeah.
I think it was just everything was just going on. I'm like, oh no, I won't worry about it. I'll have one when I get home. But I was just like, when he gave me the beer, I was like, oh my God, thank God.
It
But
was a lot.
I think you've been quite busy just doing your normal homeschooling. Like, you haven't really had a break this year from
Oh,
homeschooling.
no. We had like, I think 1 week. So we started back to like learning in the second week of January. We had
Yeah.
1 week off up until like last week. So it was, yeah, a long time and a
Um,
lot going on. So we last at the beginning of last week we were just like, nah, we're just going to have a little break. So we've just been going out and exploring. We went to museums and we went to like botanical gardens and things like that. Went to the zoo with like another homeschool group, which was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, we've just been doing little things like that because, oh, holy moly, like even I was starting to feel burnt out, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's good that you
Yeah.
can recognize that and then just go, you know what, let's just have a week off.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are always doing things and going places anywhere. So it's like if you're not necessarily doing the learning side of it, it's not necessarily a big deal, but they're still learning, you know,
Oh,
going
there's
to
so
the
much learning, like just through life in general. Like, for example, this morning we made waffles and I wrote out like a really simple recipe in really as simple language as I could, with little pictures on an A4 piece of paper for Isaac. And Isaac's not quite 6 yet. And so he was able to like stand there on his steps in the kitchen and he got all the ingredients that he needed out. Like he basically ran the show. He had Luca, the almost 3-year-old, as his little apprentice. And, like they made these waffles, predominantly just the two of them. I swooped in at the very end. And he was like following, like, oh, this is 1 cup for, and he's like sounding it. It's like, that must say flour. Like, yeah, that says flour because, flour is not exactly spelt the way it sounds. Um, so, there's so much learning in just every single day, just
and you
life.
are this is a great segue into the conversation we want to have tonight, but you are very good at keeping the boys busy and kind of away from tech, and you guys live on an acre, so your boy's always outside,
Mm,
outside playing. And when we come for visits, it's never, I think, rarely, maybe once we've put a movie on for them. Not even that. Like they would have, but you're very big on doing activities for them that keep them busy without needing to sit down and get stimulated by a device.
mm, definitely, definitely. That's pretty much what I do every single day.
I do remember when we first met, actually. So the kids don't have iPads in prep, but they have to have one for grade one. And I
Mm,
remember you telling me that Miles was really struggling because he'd never had an iPad. And so you
mm,
went out with an iPad for school, whereas most kids his age would have had
yeah.
an iPad for like 2 or 3 years by the time they're
Mm,
5. Um, so I do remember that having that conversation with you, and I was like, wow, like how have you kept them off
yeah.
a device? Because it's everywhere now,
Yeah.
everywhere.
I mean, I don't think there's a complicated answer. It's purely just as simple as this is the decision that we made as parents, and we just don't don't bring that into our family. We don't bring that into our routine. We don't rely on it for anything. Um, what you're referring to, so he had that iPad in grade one, and he was struggling because I mean it was so silly. I don't understand it, but he was getting homework, and as Zoe would have been doing the same thing. They're in the same grade, but he was coming home and he had to type responses into like text boxes and move them around on the screen. First of all, they're in grade one. They're only just learning how to spell and read and write. And, second, they were having to navigate typing and moving this stuff around on the screen with their fingers before they were actually able to write the word. And it just didn't make any sense to me. I thought, my husband and I both thought, well, shouldn't they be learning how to write, not how to type? Like it just doesn't seem right. So anyway, I did approach the teacher very early on in that year, and I basically said to her, we're not doing this. And I mean,
And
there was not much.
how did that conversation go with the teacher? Like, was she responsive to that?
Yeah, she was lovely. She was really lovely. He was. I mean, he wasn't struggling with any of his schoolwork. He
No.
wasn't behind, he was, up there at the top of the class. So there were no issues with having to do any practice at home. Um, so I think that probably made that conversation go easier. But in any sense, even if he was struggling, I wouldn't have done it on the iPad. If he was struggling with something in terms of what they were learning, I would have gone through it with him off the iPad. Um, but yeah, I was very direct and very honest with the school and pardon.
I'm a bit like that. Like when I have to show Zoe maths examples, I go and get a pen and a piece of paper. I cannot do it on the iPad. And I'm
No.
very, like when I was going through my uni journey, we didn't
Mm,
really have, computers weren't as big. I can't read, like if I have to sit down and read a PDF document on my computer, I'll go and print it out, sit down
mhm.
old school, underline, highlight. Like someone called me a
That's
Luddite once. Do you know what a Luddite is?
no.
It's a word that they came up with like back in the modern, like old days, whatever. Someone who's opposed to technology changes. And I'm like, I'm not a Luddite. I'm just very old fashioned in the way that I absorb information. So, like, I see the kids now coming through and they're like on an iPad. They'll do whatever they can just to keep the iPad in their hands. Whereas I'm like old school. I don't really like reading books on the phone. I like having a book in my hand. And I'm
Mm,
very, that's just the way I was brought up. And I find it hard to, I get too distracted if I'm reading on a phone. Like I just want to put my phone away and I just want to grab a book and go lay in bed or whatever. But yeah, I don't see many people reading books now. I sit on the train, I catch the train to work, and I'll look up and there'll be probably one person, maybe one or two people out of the whole carriage that's actually not on the phone. Everyone else is
yeah.
just on it. And
I
it's
consciously
crazy.
do that. Yeah. I do that all the time whenever we're out somewhere. I have this thing where I always look around to see what's going on and who's, and you know what, Miles, our 10-year-old has started doing the same thing. And now he will point out if we're somewhere like, I don't know, out at at the shops or whatever, he will point out, like the other day we were in a waiting room to see a doctor. So we're in the waiting room and he quietly pointed out, oh, mummy, everyone's on their phone. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I remember
It's
when Caleb was having his surgery, I'm not sure if Luca was the same, and you got to go through that fasting period beforehand and you're in the hospital and you're doing the waiting game. And Caleb was just a million miles an hour. He didn't eat or drink all day. So I think he had his last meal at like breakfast time. And then he had last liquids was like 10:30, 11 o'clock. So then we made the trek into the hospital. He didn't get operated on until 3:30 is when they finally took him in. That whole time, that kid did not sit down once. But he so busy in his own mind that he wasn't upset that he wasn't eating. Like he was happy walking around the hospital. He was happy. Just there were so many things for them to do in the waiting room. Whereas I just wanted to sit there and just chill on my phone. My 3-year-old wouldn't let me, or 2-year-old at the time wouldn't let me. But it's interesting how, yeah, we have become this society that just gravitates towards their phone or their iPad or whatever so easily, which has led us to
definitely.
conversation because we both have very similar ideals, but I particularly me, I have to manage them very differently because I have other co-parents that we have to deal with, and I don't want to be seen as the strict household that won't let their kids do anything. So we've had to come to some sort of compromises, but there are certain things that I'm like, no, that's a hard no, no. So I think it was, so we have with our kids, we have they obviously have their iPads at school. So I'm very mindful. Some days they're on their iPads all day and then they come home and they just want to sit on their iPad. So I have a time limit of an hour during the week where they could do extracurricular stuff. So it times out all the stuff that's not school related. So, for example, this afternoon, Eamon's timed out, but he was actually creating a cartoon in this program that they use at school that he started at school. So he was kind of like doing schoolwork, but it wasn't really schoolwork, if that makes sense. And it was really cool. He's created this little stick figure cartoon and it's doing this really cool stuff. So I'm like, I don't mind that sort of stuff.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I have a very strong dislike for certain games. And on the weekends, I allow them on the weekends only. And they have a time limit of 5 hours on the weekend, and that's it. Their iPads will time out. I want them to go outside. I want them to, I think it was last Sunday, they'd been inside watching the World Cup or they were on their iPads the whole day. And it got to 4 o'clock. I'm like, you know what? Turn everything off, go outside. You have not even been outside to see the sun today. So they were quite compliant. They got on their bikes, they went for a ride. Like there's quite a few kids in the area because they all go to the same school. So, they can go and play. But it's just like sometimes you just have to give them that push. Hey, why don't you get off your iPad and go out for a ride? In summer, it's a bit hard because they're like, oh, it's too hot, But I'm like, it's winter, guys. It's not that hot. Go to the park or whatever. And they're usually happy to comply. It's just they need that initial push because I think it's so easy for them to just sit there and keep getting that gratification from a device. And one thing that we have banned in our house now, and this has only happened since the government rules came in, where it blocked out kids. So the kids used to like watching YouTube and they used to watch adults' YouTube. But because I could create an email address and sign them in, I could then check what they were watching. But since the government regulations came in and it signed everyone out unless you verify your age, we happened to come across one of the boys' iPads over Easter, and what we saw on there, I could only describe as mild porn. There was pictures of a baby coming out of a mum's bits, like freshly born. There was one where this lady was laying naked on her stomach, so you couldn't see anything, but she was getting a sensual massage. And we sort of hit Connor up about it because, when you have a bit of an understanding on how these apps work and you kind of go, well, you would have had to have searched for that for it to come up because we started watching that Social Dilemma on Netflix. Have you ever watched that one?
No, we don't have Netflix.
Oh, of course. But it is a really good documentary. They interview a lot of people that have worked for Meta, which is part of Instagram, Pinterest, Google, and their sole purpose is to create an algorithm that keeps people on their phones, keeps people scrolling. And knowing that with the whole YouTube thing, we just said, I'm sorry, but this is not appropriate for you to be watching. So we completely took YouTube off them altogether. So they can have YouTube Kids, even though, that's whatever, boundaries, whatever, but you can't take everything off them or they'll literally just lose it. But that made us like, you know what? No, I do not like this. That is not appropriate for a 9-year-old to be watching. So no one has YouTube in the house.
YouTube
and
is
it's really
so dangerous.
It's,
The things.
I struggle because, and I think you struggle with this too, is that sometimes we can just play the naive card and, I don't really know what's going on. I don't, whatever. That's not going to happen to my child. But it's so dangerous on these devices on the web. Like there's so much that they can get exposed to.
Oh my gosh, Pam, no, there's no naivety here. I have read way too much.
You often get frustrated, or you've often said to me, I don't understand how some people can bury their head in the sand and think, oh, that's okay. That's not going to happen to my child because what
it does. It does. And I mean, I got that message from you over Easter and you actually showed me screenshots.
Yeah.
And I was horrified. Like I showed Michael and I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I could believe it because I've read all about this. I have stayed up to date with as much as possible, and not just myself, but Michael as well. So I knew it was possible, but actually seeing it with your
Mm.
own eyes so close to home, that was confronting.
Yeah.
That was confronting. So I can only imagine how you guys must have felt.
Oh, we were just like, what? Like, this isn't,
Yeah,
he wasn't even 9 at the time. He was about to turn 9.
yeah,
And his excuse was, oh, it just kept showing up on my YouTube. And I'm like, you might have searched something and then the algorithm has just run with
yeah.
it, whatever. But it's just like, I'm sorry, honey, but this is not safe.
Mm,
So like I know like my daughter loves watching Minecraft, like people doing stuff in Minecraft. I get there's some educational sides to YouTube, but I feel like that's a small proportion of what's on YouTube these days, and it's just not
yeah,
worth it. It's not worth
yeah.
the risk.
See, we now that we homeschool, I use YouTube. Um, but there's certain channels that I have like a homeschool
Yeah,
email that I use, so nothing personal is on there, and then certain channels that I've followed that have been recommended by the homeschool
yeah, yeah,
groups.
yeah.
Um, but I'm the one that is in charge of that. And I pre-watch everything to make sure there's nothing that pops up and there never is because like we watch things like National Geographic and, kids science and stuff like that. Yeah. So exactly. So there's like, it can be a really, really good tool. But unfortunately, like with a lot of things, it has a really dark side as well. And children just don't know what they're going to stumble upon. And they're the ones that are naive. And as adults, we should be the ones that are in front of it, that don't bury our heads and that are aware of all of these things. I don't know. Am I being judgmental? Like, am I being harsh by expecting that?
No,
And not
you know,
expecting that of others. Like, obviously, whatever others do, like that's their
everyone.
own thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, we don't let Miles, who's 10, go to a friend's house without us because there's only one friend that we've allowed. They're lovely, but I had that conversation with Mum and I was like, I don't want them to be on any screens while he's here. And
Mm.
she was very respectful of that, and that's
Yeah.
okay. So that's
I think if
great.
you communicate that up front, like we had Connor's birthday party recently, and it was the end of April. It probably wasn't a great time to have a pool party because it was getting colder and it was a bit overcast and rainy. So as kids were being dropped off, I'm like, oh, do you have an iPad? Like, I was just worried about how I was going to entertain. I don't really have a yard, so I was worried about how I was going to entertain 8, 9 year olds. And there was one mum that said, no, we don't allow Roblox. And I was like, cool, I will make sure that while he is here,
Yeah.
no one Roblox. And
Mm,
kids kept asking me. And I said, you know what? You guys are here for a party. You don't have to sit here and play Roblox. Like I get it. But the moment that one mum told me, if every kid in the room's parents would allow them to play, I was like, sure, you can play Roblox. But the moment that one mum said, and I didn't want that little boy to feel singled out, so I just said no Roblox at all because I completely understand why people have these boundaries and why they have these rules. I do not like the game either, and I would love to delete it from the kids. But then we have the co-parenting, and then they go to mum's house and they get it at mum's house, and then you kind of feel like the kids get really excited to go to the other parent's house because they get to play a game that they can't play at your place. So that's why I don't like it, and I monitor it. I make sure they don't add people they don't know. We've really had to crack down on the 9 year old because he's got over 700 friends on Roblox. And I just said, this is not okay. This is dangerous. this game is always in the news about pedophiles. And I remember you shared a podcast with me that was really confronting about a
Yeah.
guy who had been groomed on that game. I don't think I could finish listening to it because it was a 15-year-old being groomed by a pedophile on there. And so I said to my husband, I'm like, I've listened to this podcast as much as I could. I don't think it's safe. And if he's adding people he doesn't know, then we either need to delete it and start a new account for him and really make sure that he doesn't add people he doesn't know. So we had that conversation with him, and we are making him sit down and start deleting everyone he doesn't know. There's a lot. He's going to be there for a while, but you just never know, because he's
No.
like 8, and he might have someone starting to chat to him, and he's not going to understand that that person might not be who they say they are.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
had this happen with my 15-year-old. It was a few years ago. Do you remember when I said that he had a
Yeah.
boyfriend, girlfriend? And we didn't know anything about this. This was all new. And he made up some story about how he met her at South Bank when they were in there for his mum's birthday. And I was starting to get like a bit fishy and I was asking questions. I'm like, oh, so you just randomly met this girl and you asked her for your Roblox name? Like, wouldn't you think you'd ask her for a phone number? Because he said the only way they talked was on Roblox. And I was just like, oh, something just wasn't adding up. And the more we sort of dug into it, the more we realized, because I'm like, the other kids weren't allowed to have that game at the time. So I'm like, well, you can't sit here and play that game just because that's the only way to communicate with this person. And then we found out that he'd never actually met her. She lived in New Zealand and she was supposed to be a 15-year-old girl. And I'm like, have you seen photos? Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, anyone could go on to Google,
Yeah.
search teenage girl and send you a
Yeah.
picture and you're none the wiser. Have you FaceTimed her? Like, have you actually videoed her? Oh, no. And there was so much drama happening with this girl. I just said to him, I'm like, you know what? I think you need to cut ties. Like, I don't think she is who she says she is. I think that you are probably being stitched up by someone who is on there to do this sort of thing. So I think that was a real wake-up call for us, that you give these kids access to these games, but you really don't know what they're doing unless you're sitting beside them and watch. So yeah, Roblox is a big no-no from me, but I have to kind of adjust my values a little bit because of the whole co-parenting.
Yeah. That's been tough for you. That's been a tough road.
Yeah. So that's definitely a game that I do not like, and I have watched reels of what people can do in that game. You can go into an emergency room and stab a pregnant lady. Like, I'm like, that's not a game that you should be playing. Like, that's horrible. And just little things like that. So I'm well aware of the toxicity of that game, but I have to make some exceptions because of certain arrangements. And they're not allowed at school. Like, they have to delete. We sign an iPad agreement with the kids that they're not allowed to have apps for over 12 and up, which is YouTube, Roblox. So they're really only supposed to have they delete them on a Sunday night and then they reinstall them again on a Monday, because on a Friday, because I'm like, we've signed this agreement to say that you will not have these apps on your iPad, so you are not going to school with those apps on your iPad.
Yeah.
But it is hard because everyone's playing them. So I want to be like everyone else, and I want to play this game because everyone else is playing it. So there's that whole social aspect. And I remember having conversations with my husband with our 15-year-old stepson. He'll be like, you go to a high school now and you see them all walking out like this. Like, and I just said to my husband, I'm like, but he's like, everyone's doing it. I'm like, just because everyone is doing it, that doesn't make it right. And that doesn't mean that it's a good choice for them. So I'm constantly having those arguments inside my brain.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's hard.
that's
It's hard to know what, I think you're lucky in the sense that because you have chosen to homeschool, you can kind of have a bit more control. You can kind of choose the people that you hang out with and that your children integrate with. So you kind of have a lot more control about that.
mm,
When they go to school, you don't really have that option. If they come home and say, this person's my best friend, and you meet their parents and they're not who that you would like their child to be associating with, you can't really say, oh no, you can't play with that person. Um, so yeah, it's a tough one.
it's a very tough one. It's a very tough one. As you said, how do you step away from the norm when it's everywhere? And we did, like, just before we pulled Miles out, there were a few times that he came home in tears because he felt left out. I guess he felt like he didn't belong. Because he said, little things like, and the children were lovely, nothing to do with the children, or, the families are beautiful. Like, we made some really beautiful friends. It was more, little things like, oh, my group of friends were talking about this and this that they did over the weekend. And, it was like a game that they played and it was a big hot topic. And the way that he was Fortnite, that's right, and that's one that we don't allow. And he said he would just stand there and join in by, laughing when they were laughing and just listening, but didn't have much to say, didn't know what they were talking about because we don't play it. So the way that we approached that was we were really upfront and honest with him about why we didn't want him to play. We downloaded the game and my husband offered to sit down with him and show him the game so that he could see it and he could be as aware as possible about, what goes on, so that when his friends were having a conversation about it, he would actually have some sort of experience.
Yeah.
And he would be able to, he'd be able to visualize the game and, he'd be able to, I guess, somewhat join in and not feel so left out. But he had no interest. It wasn't a game that he wanted to play. He didn't enjoy it. And I mean, I was relieved about that. So yeah, that's sort of how we approached that difficulty. But yeah, it is really, really hard, and I am absolutely not burying my head and pretending like it would be easy. Like, I know if we were still at school, given that he's 10 going on 11, he'd be in grade 5, I know it would be getting harder. And I know that with high school around the corner, we would be dealing with this topic a lot differently to what we are now. So I'm definitely
You're not anti-game. So the boys have
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
Isaac loves Mario. He loves
Yeah.
Mario. So you're not anti
No.
screen gaming at all. I just wanted to put that out there because I don't think
Oh
we've touched on
gosh. No, definitely not like anti-technology, anti-games, nothing like that. We just really heavily monitor and have really big boundaries around what we allow them to have access to and play and use.
Yeah.
Things like Roblox and Fortnite, hard nose. That's just
Yeah.
he had Minecraft for a little while, again, while he was at school because it was a big thing, but he didn't really enjoy it too much. He's more of a kid who, but even with Minecraft, see, we got it on the Nintendo, I'm pretty sure it's like one of the consoles, so I think it was the Nintendo, not on the iPad, because I did read in the research, there is something about, with an iPad, you just pressing the screen and something to do, it's kind of like gambling. It's that dopamine when you press it and then things flash and change. it's like a hit, and you just want to
Mm.
keep pressing and keep getting that hit. So we read some research about that, and we were like, okay, let's just switch over and use a console. And I don't know, my husband convinced me that it sort of fires different parts of the brain. It works a little bit differently with the
Yeah,
brain when
I
it's
could
like on
understand.
a, yeah.
And it's also at a distance. It's not like right here. So
Yeah, and that's also one of our boundaries.
the
Yeah,
posture.
that's
Yeah.
exactly. And that's one of our boundaries as well, is games that we play on a console so that they're on the TV, they're in the media room for everyone to see. Nothing is in a bedroom. That's a huge hard no again. No screens in a bedroom. It's in the media room. Everyone has access to it. Everyone can see what you're doing. And generally they play together as opposed to you go and play on your own.
Well, that's the great
So,
thing about Nintendo Switches is they are very
yeah.
orientated. So they are designed. Since I've let the kids have Roblox again, they have not touched their Switches at all. And I've said to them, I'm like, you know what? I should just give these to some kids who would actually appreciate them because
Mm,
all you care about is your iPads. But I think that I need to start going, right, maybe giving them 4 hours, for example, and then making them play a game where they have to do it together, like Mario Party or Just Dance or something like that on the Switch, where they're actually
mm.
together. I know I haven't done it for a little while, but I remember at the other house we were at before we moved into this new one, we had like a Sunday where we all sat down and we just played Mario Party together as a family in the morning for a couple of hours. And we, because you've only got four controllers, you're going to have four players, but you just pass it around. And I quite liked that because you felt like one, you were kind of doing it all together as a family,
Yeah.
whereas when they're on iPads, it's very silo and very like what I'm
Yeah.
doing, I think. Even though, like with Roblox, they often play in the same game together. I still prefer the console, like the actual Nintendo Switch, a lot better. So
Mm.
to go back to that, just to get
Yeah.
the
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many like games that they can play together. And the boys like playing some goose game. I don't really know what it's called, but it's like this weird goose game where they have like these they're playing as two geese. And they have like these things that they have to do. Like one of the levels is like they're in this farm, this farmer's garden, and they have to like pull the rake out, and they have to like steal the farmer's hat, and then they have to like set up a picnic. And so like they have this like list of things that they have to do, but they have to do it together. So like while one goose is honking over here to get the farmer's attention, the other one will run over and steal the farmer's hat.
yeah.
So, like they do little things like that. And, like, so we're not like against it. But again, that's interactive and that's like problem solving. And, you hear them saying, oh, you got to go over there and do that. And so they're trying to like figure out this puzzle and it's fun. Like even I get involved with stuff like that. It's,
Reading an article not long ago actually, and they were talking about how the games have changed over time.
mm,
Remember the original like Sega Master System, how it came with a built-in game called Alex Kidd.
oh, yes.
You had three
Now
lives.
you're showing now you're showing our age.
You had three lives. Once you
Yeah.
died, that was it. You had to start again.
Yeah.
And you couldn't save.
No.
So you had to sit there and you had to progress through to the end. And
Yeah.
all that was it. You had to start
Yeah.
again. If you turned the
Yeah.
console off or there was lost power or there was a storm, went through the you'd lose power, that was it. You'd have to start again.
Yeah.
I feel like over time, games have changed now
Yeah.
that you get infinite lives and they're a
Mm.
lot more guided, as in it's like they'll take you through the journey and they'll assist you to the point where you don't even really need to problem solve anymore.
No.
And so I thought that was really interesting that because I grew up with Alex Kidd and I grew up with the Sega Master System and problem solving. I remember having this one game called The Addams Family. This was on the Master System. And you had to go through and you had to find $1 million in order to save Morticia. I never, ever found the extra money. I never saved more t-shirt. Now you'd go onto Google, right, and Google would tell the answer or whatever.
Yes.
But do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like over time, games have now gotten to the point where you got infinite lives, you can have as many goes at it, and there's no, you don't lose. You never lose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
that
that's
was
the
really
point. That's the point. I did listen to a conversation. Gosh, I can't remember who it was now because I've listened to so many of them. But so the modern games now are designed with psychologists on board so that they are addictive, so that they keep people on there and they keep them coming back. So yeah, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. Like they are not like they used to be. And that's another thing that we do is we have the really old console.
I think I remember seeing it at your house.
I know. I remember once you said to me like, "Oh my gosh,
Like,
Dana, let the
yeah, like the old like consoles when you actually stick the rectangle consoles in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah," and they have to sit like really close to the TV because the little thing that they hold, what's it called? It's like attached. It's attached by a cord, so they have to like sit there on their little bean bags, like right there. It's funny, but yeah, sometimes like we just say, if they want a bit of Nintendo time or whatever, like, go play that one today. And I tell you what, they are not on there for longer than 20 minutes at a time because it's too hard. And they get frustrated and then they go off and they usually go bounce on the trampoline. So
Yeah. Like the games now are designed to, like you said,
yeah,
keep them going, whereas old
that's
school
right.
games, I got
And
frustrated with games.
I read this book, Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation. I know I recommended it to you, but you said it was a little bit too sciencey,
Statisticky for me,
bit too
yeah.
statisticky. Yeah. If you can look past the statistics, he had some really, really good things to say in that book. And one of them was that, the modern games, the iPads, it all rewards with colors and flashes and music. And it is exciting. It's kind of like a little casino right there in your hands. And, it's all about keeping kids coming back, keeping them playing for longer. And they are designed with psychs. And that's really, when I heard that, I was really upset about that because I thought, as a psychologist, you should be working to do good, not
make these
bad.
corporations make money, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's a really, really good book, The Anxious Generation. He had some
Do you have
really,
one
really.
that you because I have my copy
Oh,
right over there. I just haven't. I'll go grab it.
okay.
This is the book Sana's talking. Jonathan Haidt, The Anxious Generation. So
Yeah,
I don't know
it's a
where I got
really,
it.
really good book.
I
So,
think my motivations was reading it was more around the teenagers because I've got a girl and I'm really worried about the impacts of social media on her.
social
And I've already
media,
had
yeah.
a conversation with her around, you know what, you're not getting a Facebook, you're not getting an Instagram, you're not getting any of that until you're old enough to understand. I want you to figure out who you are first before you start seeing all these pictures on Instagram or Facebook that are so AI generated, but you think in your mind that you have to look like that. And so, because both both my 10 and 11-year-old have both got mobile phones, more so because we work and we're not often home and they'll walk home from school. I just want them to have something on them in case they need to call us. If one of them falls off their bike, for example, something like that. So they've got mobile, but I've given them a phone on the conditions that you can have Spotify and that's it. There's no YouTube, there's no Netflix, you are using this phone as a communication tool. That is it. And I made that very clear. I'm like, you're not getting TikTok. Don't even get me started on TikTok.
Oh, I listened to a really interesting conversation on about TikTok today.
Oh, tell me.
Oh, I can't remember who it was, but I'm fairly sure Jonathan Haidt was being interviewed, and they were talking about how TikTok is made in a way something to do with. See, I'm not all up in the know of all of this, but it's made in China, and they essentially are influencing what children think because they only allow certain things and certain reels and certain stories. Or I've never used TikTok, so I actually don't know.
Right.
Um, yeah, but apparently it's heavily controlled. Like what is allowed to go on there is heavily controlled. And if it's not aligned with the message or the narrative that they are trying to tell, then it'll get banned and taken off. So something about that's how they influence um, culture and thought processes, and that's how they influence, um, yeah, essentially the opinions of young minds, which I thought was full on, like full
It is.
on
It's really scary.
stuff that you'd never ever think of. Like, yeah, just I was speechless when I heard that. I was like, really? Is that really what's actually happening? Like, there's yeah, it's like nothing is innocent. And as it seems anymore, there's always an underlying um, agenda.
But it's funny because you can't explain that to a young kid. Like they don't understand that side of it, and they don't understand
No.
that. They just hear you saying, "No, you can't have that," and then as Miles is 10 and my daughter's 10, we can sort of start explaining to them. Like, and I've explained to her about the dangers of Roblox, and I've explained to her you don't talk to anyone on there. You know, you can have a conversation with them and try and get them to understand. And Zoe's usually pretty good. She'll go, "Okay, mummy, I understand," and that kind of gives you a little bit of comfort. But it's so scary. I don't have TikTok, and I've refused to download it because I don't need something else to become addicted to because they are addictive. Um,
Mm,
but I even have time limits on my own phone, and the kids see
mm.
it time off. I've got a time limit no more than half an hour a day on combined between Instagram and Facebook. And I can tell if I'm having a very underproductive day because I'll hit that before like 10:30. Some days
Yeah.
I don't hit it at all. But it's a reminder to myself when that screen time comes up, hang on, you've been scrolling too much today. And that's when I stop and go, why am I scrolling? Am I just really bored? Do I need something else to do? But the kids see it pop up, and so I'm like, I have time limits too, guys. Like I'm not just trying to be this person in your life trying to tell you what to do all the time. Like I have limits for myself because I understand how addictive these devices are
That's right.
in
And I
getting.
think it's important to, I think it's also important to explain to our children they're addictive to us adults.
Mm,
So, of course, they're going to be addictive to children as well. And I feel like it's important for them to see um, us being, subject to that as well. Like, there'll be times where I'll get stuck on my phone doing something or whatever, and Miles will actually come up to me and say, "Mummy, time to go do something else." I was like, oh, I must have like gotten so stuck into what I was doing that you lose track of time so
you do.
easily, and then you're like, it happened to me. It's
Yeah.
but it does. It happens to the best of us. It happens to yeah. It just happens.
And it's quite funny because, like, as I said, I give the kids an hour on during the week, but they have to do their chores first, their homework and everything, and then they'll get free iPad time. There's not much they can do on them anymore because I've taken YouTube off them. They're not allowed Roblox during the week. So I kind of like, what is it that you want on your iPad? Like, if you're going to watch Netflix, watch it on the TV. Do you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, it's quite funny how sometimes they're like, I don't know why my iPad's timed out, and I'm like, because you've been sitting there for an hour.
Mm.
Oh no, I haven't. I'm like, yeah, you have.
You don't even
It's just
realize.
as opposed to what I have done in my hour. Very, very
Yeah,
different. But yeah,
yeah.
it's very easy to lose that concept of time when you're so engrossed in something and you just next minute. And that's purely why I don't have TikTok, because I'm like, I don't need another app to get addicted to the point where I'm like, what have I just done with the last half an hour of my life?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly. You know
is
what
there
we
any
started doing?
is there any other sort of in your research that you've done? Is there any other sort of fun facts, I guess you could say, that you'd like to share that you
Oh my gosh, so many things. Justin Coulson. Love Justin Coulson. One of the things that he says that just always has resonated with me and just I've just always kept it in my mind. Smart parents give their kids dumb phones. I really love that. You know, the basic dumb phones.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My husband
Yep.
was actually about getting them for ourselves because we
Yeah.
just get so involved in our phones these days.
Yeah, yes, I thought that was clever. He sort of recommended until the age of 14. Our rule with that is we'll see how we go in a few years, but um, because obviously Miles sees his cousin has a phone and he's had friends who have had phones. And so twice, I think now he said to us, not that he wants one, but he, out of curiosity, he's sort of said, oh, when am I going to get a phone? And our response is always, when you've got a job and you can pay for it.
Which is
um,
which is a fair response because they're not cheap these days.
oh no, gosh, not with
Yeah,
everything else that we have to.
sidetracked, but when we were looking for a plan for my stepson, I was kind of like, the prepaid plans that you get now expire after 30 days. So you back in the day when we had prepaid phones, you buy credit and you would go until it ran out. Now they're on a monthly cycle. So it'll time out the data, it just times out after a month. So it's no different to
Oh,
being on a paid plan, right? So I've been doing all this research, trying to find like the best deal, what's the cheapest deal, because they will charge you $30 to $40 a month. And I'm like, maybe we should just put him on a postpaid plan, like so it's a guaranteed every month, top up, whatever. I even went down the route of trying to see if he could data share off us. So because we pay a monthly bill, could he not use some of our data so we're not putting him on a prepaid plan? The only one that would do it was Telstra, and it was ridiculously expensive. And I'm
yeah.
like, I'm not doing this. This is just crazy. But yeah, I thought a fun fact because, and we've said that to our stepson, we're like, well, we're not going to keep paying for your phone bill every month. Like it's $40 a month, and the credit just times out if you don't use it. Too bad, too sad, you lose it. And I was just like, why? Why can't again? It's just a money making thing, right? They're just trying to take because at the end of the month, your phone times out. Oh my God, I need my phone. Mum, Dad, top up my phone. So it's yeah, very. I just thought you probably didn't know that. So you can tell Miles that phone bills are not cheap. They're at least $30 to $40 a month. You can shop around. We ended up going with Woolworths Mobile. Ended up being one of the cheapest ones.
Right. Well, goodness knows
Yeah.
what it'll be in like 5 years' time.
You get a voucher to Woolies at the same time, so you get like a in-store 10% discount on your shop or something. One shop a month. I was like,
Oh,
oh, so there's a bit of a benefit for me in that as well.
yeah, I'll take that. Hey.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought that's really interesting. But yeah, it is hard when, kids see other kids doing things. And the big
Mm.
thing in our area at the moment is electric scooters. Everyone has an electric scooter.
Yeah, yeah.
And whether they're riding them safely or not is a different question. Whether they should be riding them or not is a different question. But our kids see that. When can I have an electric scooter? When you're 16. But why do I have to wear one? Because that's the law now. And it's like parents can actually start getting fined if you're on an electric scooter. But they're everywhere.
They
Everyone's got one.
are.
And
Yeah.
they're so dangerous. And I
Mm.
was, oh, I remember someone in our area saw my stepson, my elder stepson. He goes, oh, she messaged me. She's, oh, is your stepson blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, he should be like almost home. And I looked on Family Link and he was where she said he was. He was riding on the scooter with someone when he shouldn't have been. And I was
Yeah.
like, you're gonna do the wrong thing. Please don't get seen by people that know what you look like. It's like people are everywhere.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's hard when kids see different trends and stuff, and that's another thing
Yeah.
with like YouTube and stuff, which Miles probably would be exposed to. But when you see kids on, oh, this is the latest trend on YouTube or whatever, and it's just like I don't care.
Mm.
I'm like always the last person to care about trends, and I don't care what brand people are wearing. I don't care what's cool. I'm not cool. I don't try to be cool.
Hang on, what were you called at the gym the
I
other
love it.
day?
Oh, at the
No.
gym. Oh, I was called old school because I wear Lorna Jane.
Yeah.
This lady at the gym came up to me and she's like, "Oh, I can tell your age because you wear Lorna Jane." And I'm like, "Sorry?" And she's because all the new kids, all the young kids are wearing all these booty brands where it really emphasizes their booty and they're like skin tight little mini crop tops. And I'm like, you know what? I've tried so many different branded fitness wear and I always end up back at Lorna Jane because the quality is, you just cannot beat it anywhere. The quality is great. Says you and I, who are both sitting here.
With our Lorna Jane. I thought that was so funny. Michael heard you when you said that the other day at lunch because you bought me a jumper just like this one actually in a different
I
color.
actually messaged him that and I said, are you sure you want to buy Zana? You sure you want me to get her another Lorna Jane jumper because it's actually classified as old school? And he's like, what do you mean? And I told him what happened. So he'd heard that previous comment.
Oh,
He's
okay.
like,
Because
what am I wearing now? And I'm like, keep the pump, define, loose kid. Like there's so many fitness wear out there. But I feel like Lorna was the original
yeah,
greatest and still is in my eyes.
yeah, yeah.
Is
I just thought
but
that was so funny. 'Cause, yeah, definitely not chasing trends over here. I got two jumpers, two hoodies, two different colors, same jumper. It's just so comfy and so versatile. And, like wear it everywhere. Um,
well, so what do I get Zana? And he's like, well, she's literally been living in this jumper since I bought it, so maybe a second one.
I had to wash it the other day. I was like, what am I going to wear? My hoodie's in the wash.
He literally said you've been nothing but living in it. I'm like, all right, I'll get her. He goes, you don't have to get that. And I'm like, no, no, no. If she's gonna wear it, I'm happy to buy her another one because
Yeah,
I know what it's like. This I've got three of this type. I've got a brown, a pink, and a blue. So that
yeah.
when one's being washed, I've got a backup to wear, right?
We
But
really
yeah,
are old school, aren't we?
we
I
are
love it.
so, the quality's there and it's not cheap, but I only ever buy it when it's on sale.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's good stuff. But anyway, we have been rambling on for about an hour, so we should probably wrap this conversation up.
We probably should. You did ask me if I had anything else. Oh my gosh, Pam, I have so much, and I don't even think I can sit here and actually even tell you about everything. Saving Our Kids by Madonna King, another really, really good one. If parents want to dive in. That one, she worked in collaboration with Detective Inspector John Roos, I think. So it was all about Task Force Argos, which was like an undercover operation in Queensland, and they exposed abusers. And that book was so confronting. It took me like 12 months to get through. That was very, very confronting, but it's definitely one of those ones that opens your eyes up to what can happen out there and
Yep.
the deep dark web, and it is scary.
Yep.
So that's a really good one as well. But yeah, I mean, there's so much. It's all everywhere. It's,
If there's any that really stick out for you, we'll share them in the show notes. If there's any
mm,
podcasts that you go to that you've really enjoyed, we'll put the link for the Anxious Generation in there as well. So I think we might just get together a few resources that we could potentially share in the show notes. That way our
yeah,
listeners have got.
yeah, definitely. Like these are all just things that we've come across over the last however many years, and they've helped shape how we approach technology in our house.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
But I'm glad we finally got to have our talk on tech.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. It's a tricky conversation, like, and I just want to reiterate, like, there's no judgment, like, Oh my Lord, as parents, we are all just doing our best and we've all just got to do it our own way. You know, I don't know. I get asked a lot, do I think that our kids will be behind in terms of knowing how to use technology because we don't allow them as much exposure? I don't know. I mean, quite possibly. I guess we'll find out, you know. So I don't know. I just feel like there's no one right way. It just has to work for your family.
In saying that, though, they might be behind in technology, but they'll probably be way ahead in other aspects because they've had to learn to problem solve. Because that's one of the things that I think technology is taking away from us is the ability to stop and problem solve or think for ourselves. So your boys will be out of the park in that respect. So whether they might know how to navigate a computer as well as the person next to them, they might be the next CFO or CEO because they can think for themselves.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? All these things that we'll find out one day.
Well, before we know it, AI will be here and we won't have jobs anyway.
That's such a positive note to finish on. Thanks so much, Pam.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode, and I'm sure we'll be back soon with another great topic to share our wisdom and
Our
opinions.
crazy thoughts.
Thank you so much for your time, Zana, and we will catch up soon.
Thank you. Bye.
We hope you have enjoyed listening to our podcast and that it brought a little inspiration to your day. If you have any wild, weird, or wonderful topics you'd like us to explore, send us an email to careersandcartwheels@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook or Instagram and leave a comment there. Thanks for hanging out with us. We can't wait to have you back for another episode. Full of questionable wisdom and unexpected tangents. Until then, stay curious. And try not to pull any cartwheels without stretching first.